we've known, of course, for a long time that there are major differences between liberals and conservatives. The way they think about issues, the way they relate to one another, the way they live their lives. So this we've known. But now, thanks to modern scientific technology and machinery, we actually have the capacity to test some of these differences, look inside the brain, and figure out what these differences are. And in fact, now we believe there's a machine that you can plug a person into and tell whether they're a liberal or a conservative. That might be going a little bit too far, but we're going to provide the evidence to you, and you can determine for yourself. So if you put someone in one of these machines that tracks the motion of the eyes and show them images like this example image, the idea is a disgusting
liberal.
Image. That dude's a liberal. Yeah, and so you show them some images that elicit disgust or anxiety, some that are more neutral and things like that, and you see how long they look at different images and where their eyes go. You can learn a lot about them. And so researchers say that conservatives tended to focus their eyes much more rapidly on the negative or aversive images, and also to dwell on them for a lot longer. And after being shown a variety of threatening images, such as a very large spider on the face of a frightened person, a dazed individual with a bloody face, and an open wound with maggots in it, according to this study, conservatives exhibited greater skin conductance, a moistening of the sweat glands that indicates arousal of the sympathetic nervous system, which manages the body's fight or flight response. And they've concluded a couple of different things, but one of them is that if you have a negativity bias, which they're attributing to conservatives in these studies, and you focus more on the aversive and disgusting, then the world seems more threatening to you. And they're sort of speculating, and thus policies like supporting a stronger military or being tougher on immigration might feel very natural.
So one colloquial way to refer to this is that they're cowards. Okay. And so they get scared, they start sweating, but what's interesting about it is that they then look at it longer. Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
They dwell on it.
They dwell on it. And they show them pleasant pictures and upsetting pictures. And conservatives would sweat and get anxious and stuff about the bad pictures, but they'd keep looking at them.
So this is an extension of a study that we talked about, I think at this point, like 3 years ago. And I like that they're doing more research into it, because I remember when the previous study was published, I'm like, this sounds too good to be true. But that study indicated that conservatives tend to have a larger amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain, right? So now all of a sudden you have like a physical indicator of what your political ideology could be. You're predisposed to being conservative, but now we have additional nonverbal communication that could also determine that. I'm
coming off as fairly judgmental there. Okay, so let me switch it up a little bit, because look, I used to be a Republican, right? So so I don't know what my wiring is, and some of the things I read about conservatives does match me. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I've seen you dwell on something and sweat.
I do sweat. I do sweat. Okay. Now I like to fight. Everybody knows that. Okay. But they have a fight or flight reaction. Now, some of that is the amygdala with the fear, et cetera, and the adverse reaction. Some of it might be to fight. Both of those would lead to a stronger military, for example. And one of the other things that they mentioned is a more predisposition towards vengeance. Mm-hmm. Now, as I've said on the show many times, I'm predisposed in that direction. And I find liberals to be better people than I am, in a sense. Like, Jesus Christ will turn the other cheek. I don't think so. Okay, that's not how I'm built, right? So I actually empathize with both sides, despite my opening statement here on this.
Right, but but I also don't. I mean, first of all, this isn't gospel. This is theoretical, right?
Sure.
And so I mean, because liberals, they're all people, right? So I mean, if it's not a question of vengeance, maybe it comes out as Schadenfreude. If you're keeping the political arena, if it, liberal, conservative, it was as pleasurable for me to see Rick Santorum lose as it was to see Barack Obama win. Say, so there is a little bit, and that's in a way a little bit of vengeance too.
Right.
So
and understand that any equation that seeks to explain as complicated a phenomenon as political ideology is going to have dozens or possibly hundreds of variables that feed into it. They're not saying that the eye movements in this one test or the skin conductance explains 100% of the variance between conservatives and liberals. They're just saying that it is a measurable portion of it in combination with things that are learned, behavioral things, reactions to life experiences. There are many different explanations, but part of it can be explained by looking at people's eyes and skin. Part of it can be explained genetically, perhaps, and this is just one part of that puzzle.
And so, but I think there is a fair point to be made, and I think we all see it in our own lives too. And liberals are more predisposed and open to change, right? And that's why you'll see a lot of liberals on the coast. That's because people who were in their homes, who stayed in their homes, tend to be more conservative. They don't want to change. They don't want to go all the way out to California, New York, have a new experience.
They're scared.
And it might be partly because they're scared. Now, these are macro issues, right? So it's not on any one particular case, but that's part of the reason why the middle of the country might be more conservative.
Yeah.
And by the way, this applies not just to America, but the whole world. And Thomas Jefferson used to talk about this too. So it's throughout history and it's global. So that's why you'll see the people who stay in their home villages in different countries will tend to be more conservative. The ones that go to the big cities will tend to be more liberal because they're more open to change.
So,
and one more thing, and as you see the reaction in the debates, I keep thinking about those Republican debates, and when Rick Perry was like, "Yeah, I didn't lose any sleep over executing all those people," right? And the crowd goes, "Ah!" And they're so excited. Well, you think little amygdala action there,
oh, yeah,
you know?
Definitely. Yeah. No, Democrats are scared too, but Democrats are just afraid of Republicans. At least that's what we see with our elected officials.
This is a great fact to know, to talk to one another, right? To understand that the other person might have a different perspective. Right. If we have that knowledge, perhaps it'll make it a little easier to see that perspective and go, oh, okay, I get it. He wants a strong military because of this, right? And that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, right?
He wants a strong military because he's a wimp, right?
Or maybe it's the fight part of that fight or flight reaction. But at least we begin to understand each other a little bit better and maybe reach out and find solutions that could maybe encompass both perspectives.
If it's the fight part, he should feel free to join.
Ironically, though, conservatives won't listen to that because of the way that they're built.
Right, because they can.
That sounds like a new idea. I'm opposed to it.